Hello.
Hey, bitch.
Hey, bitch.
What are we doing today?
We are going to be doing a Witchy and Whining About It History of the Tarot edition.
Woo! Yeah, and this is Wine and Divination. You're listening to a segment of this show called Witchy and Whining About It, where we just, chat about things witchy and, with social media, books, whatever we're kind of learning about at the moment. And I'm one of your hosts. I'm Kristi.
I'm Devin.
And, we're going to be talking about history of the tarot, like where to come from, where to go, where to come from, Cotton Eye Joe.
If you hear any breathing in the background, that's our ASMR pug, Otho.
Yes, that's my pug, Otho, in the background. I think he's barking at something. But, okay, so tarot. We know it now as a divinatory fortune-telling tool used by psychics, but it wasn't always so.
No, it was not.
All right, so we have done both of our own research.
And true form, Kristi has read and taken notes, and I have looked up the Wikipedia.
Which, it's just what I have and what I'm reading now. So my sources are both from Rachel Pollack, but two of her books. They both kind of pretty much say the same thing, but one kind of goes a tiny bit into more detail. It's just because... So the first book I have as my source is 78 Degrees of Wisdom, A Tarot Journey to Self-Awareness by Rachel Pollack. And this was her first book about tarot. And then my secondary source is her later book about tarot called Tarot Wisdom, Spiritual Teachings and Deeper Meanings. Also by Rachel Pollack. Yeah, let's get into it.
I think we should start with the Wikipedia because this is the most basic of the overviews.
That's true.
If you Google, the first thing that comes up of tarot is the wiki. And there are some interesting kind of things that I see in here. So first of all, the tarot was first known as the Trifoni and later Tarocchi or Tarok. Is a pack of playing cards. There was playing cards used from at least mid 15th century, so the 1400s, in various parts of Europe to play games such as Italian tarocchini, French tarot, and Austrian Königrufen, which many are still played today, it says. In the late 18th century, some tarot decks began being used for divination via tarot card reading and cartomancy, leading to custom decks developed for such occult purposes. Among English-speaking countries where these games are not as widely played, tarot cards are usually primarily used for novelty and divinatory purposes, usually using specially designed packs. But some tarot for cartomancy believe that the cards have esoteric links to ancient Egypt, Iran, the Kabbalah, Indic Tantra, or the I Ching. Through scholarly research has demonstrated that tarot cards were invented partly in northern Italy in the 15th century and combined with a deck of 4 suites, the Mamluk deck. The Mamluk deck of cards followed the invention of paper from Asia into Western Europe and was invented in or before the 14th century. By the late 1300s, Europeans were producing the Mamluk deck with variations to the suite symbols and court cards. So, some believe the usage of tarot, and I promise I'll wrap it up here, but it did not occur for divination until the late 18th century. But each of the tarot decks used to be hand painted. So they have a photo here, and maybe I can put it on the Instagram, from 1450, which included for the first time an extra trump card and 32 deck of 4 suites. That was the first full deck.
Wow.
1450.
There's a lot of info that I didn't get, the other names for tarot. Because my info definitely mentions tarocchi. Tarocchi or tarocchi. I don't know. I'm thinking about gnocchi, so that I'm like, tarocchi?
No.
I don't know. The Italian version.
Yeah.
But I pretty much have something very similar. It was definitely has its origins in mid 15th century Europe, mostly Italy. It's an Italian card game called Tarocchi, which mostly was used as a card game for gambling.
Oh,
like
cool.
a poker, blackjack kind of thing.
Cool.
I don't know exactly what the game is, but that's why it was like created. It's like an unnamed and unnumbered set of cards that were created for the Visconti family from Milan.
Ooh.
And actually, in one of the other books, I believe it was specifically a wedding gift.
Okay.
For somebody in this family that was getting married.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they're from Milan, and the first artist that we have a record of is, okay, I'm gonna butcher this. Sorry to all the Italians out there. I'm gonna say in the American way.
Okay.
The most American way. Bonifacio Bembo.
Bembo.
It's probably Bonifacio
Bembo.
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 Cute little bimbo, okay. Bimbo energy, but the bimbo energy. I have learned that, like you, Devin, mentioned, there's 4 suits of 14 cards each and 22 cards showing different scenes. But these are later called triumphs or trumps.
Trump cards, yeah.
So they and most of these 22 scenes and cards make up the major arcana that they basically all show either medieval social types. So this is like the emperor or like the pope, like things that you would see, back in the day that are like kind of main figures in society. Or they're like medieval moral homilies. Like the Wheel of Fortune, like things that could happen that are like, little like
slices of life from the day almost. Like little pieces of culture.
Yeah, or representation of virtues in the form of like temperance and like, stuff like that. Or like religious mythological scenes. So
okay.
I feel like these were like the memes of back in the day.
Okay.
Like I feel like that's the vibe. Like maybe not that funny, but they were putting some stuff into it, I feel like these could be the memes.
Oh, this is interesting. So playing cards first entered Europe in the late 14th century, but the origin is unknown. First records date to 1367 in Bern, appear to have spread rapidly across the whole of Europe, mainly because card games were banned.
Oh.
Interesting.
I wonder if that has to do with like another Crusades were like 13th century. No, probably around there.
This is talking about 1367.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe it is to do with religion. And how, I don't know, gambling's bad or something. Don't be playing no card games. It's addictive. Ungodly.
Yeah, it's ungodly.
Gross.
The first documented tarot cards, you're right, were recorded between 1440 and 1450 in Milan, Florence, and Bologna, when additional trump cards
is it Bologna?
Bologna. Bologna.
Bologna the place.
Bologna.
Is that where bologna comes from?
Bologna?
Yeah.
Bologna?
Did they create that? If you guys know, please let us know on our Discord, which you can join on wineanddivination.com. There's a link. Or email us wine.divination@gmail.com. We want to know, where does bologna come from? And what does it have to do with tarot?
Oh, Trifoni means trump cards in English.
Yeah, there you go.
Trifoni.
I feel like it's widely known that it's kind of a mystery on why or what the original intentions of the cards are. Like, I feel like Bonifacio,
Bembo.
Mr. Bembo. Yeah, it's like unknown of what the original intention was, but kind of all we have to go on is, what we know today is like, it's a bunch of guesses. Like,
could you imagine just being like, oh, as a gift, I'm gonna like make this spread of thing
card set,
and then it's spread across as like wildfire. This crazy,
seriously, people
that's amazing.
Gambling with it and telling their fortunes later on. Wild, but so there's this kind of mystique and mystery on why or what is meant by the cards, very much so up until or like the original intent. Like we have like, echoes of what people thought back then, but we don't know what Mr. Bembo was thinking. And so there's a lot of speculation, and people have noticed a lot of things over time in studying the tarot. There's a lot of similarities with Jewish mysticism or like occult knowledge / Kabbalah, like you mentioned. There's a lot of like weird coincidences. Like apparently there's like the 4 suits, but then there's like 4 elements, and there's also like 4 worlds of creation. So it's like, is that part of it? Like, is that part of the origins?
Sure.
There's like 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and there's 22 major arcana cards. Like, that's kind of a weird coincidence.
Okay.
So a lot of people, like, that's what leads people to believe that there's all these different origins to it. And there was a lot of... So I feel like in the history of tarot, there have been phases in which people believed where it came from. So it's like a lot of people thought that the tarot was from like secret sources of Kabbalah. Like there were in these secret rituals, and there were like secret messages or whatever that were to be shared by only those who really knew and who like, were part of the Kabbalah. But I don't know. There's no evidence that supports that it is from anything truly occult and secret. There is a theory that Bembo maybe tapped into this like Carl Jungian thought of, collective unconscious theory, where it's like everybody has these basic spiritual archetypes that are like structured in the human mind, and that like he tapped into that, and that's why like, it's still, that's where it comes from. I mean, that's one way to think of it. But then you go to like the 18th century in France, where occultist Antoine Court de Gabellin, it's probably like Antoine Court de Gabellin or something like that. I don't know. So sorry to our French listeners who are out there. We know you're there, and I'm so sorry.
We have 2 of them. Thank you very much.
But that French occultist declared that tarot, which is actually the French name for it, like you said, instead of like tarot-y, it's tarot, and we use that today. But they believe that it was a remnant of the Book of Thoth from Egypt, created by the Egyptian god of magic to convey all knowledge to his disciples.
Okay.
But there's absolutely no, there's just no evidence to support that it is from Egypt. I think it's just not known where it just kind of popped up and caught on, and we just don't know. In 19th century France, Alphonse Louis Constant, aka Eliphas Levi, another like occultist, I think, linked the cards to Kabbalah, which kind of started the fascination and deep study of tarot, which kind of opened up more meanings and more interpretations just because things were like lining up. And I mean, I don't think any of that is like confirmed. Like, I don't think anybody has a text from back in the day that being like, yes, this is from Kabbalah. But, so many things, 2 + 2 is 4.
2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to start out with Rider-Waite?
Yeah, actually I did. So in my books, they do talk about Rider-Waite and kind of a little bit of the history of that. And that is the most popular deck, and what we kind of call like it's kind of like the gold standard of tarot decks, I think. And it's everyone's like first, it might not be everyone's first deck, but I feel like it's a great beginner deck. It's always like in a pack somewhere with like how you learn. It's the most widely accepted art and kind of meanings come from that. And so this Rider-Waite deck is a deck from 1910 from an author and scholar named Arthur Edward Waite. And
he was also a mystic.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he believed in it. And interestingly, he wanted to put his own little... He wanted to improve upon what was already out there. He wanted to make like the perfect deck that like spoke to the truth of tarot or whatever. So, which is a little controversial, and I'll get into that in a sec. But we call it the Rider-Waite deck because Rider was the British publisher that it came from. So it's like Rider-Waite, and sometimes people will call it like the Rider-Waite Smith deck, and that's because the artist who drew all the illustrations was Pamela Coleman Smith. Arthur Edward Waite was kind of criticized a little bit for this deck because he really made some changes to a lot of the, at the time, widely accepted cards to suit his own vision. So like I said, he wanted to make like the ultimate deck that spoke to like the truth of tarot, but in his eyes. And so for an example, like in the original tarot, it's like the sun is typically like two children holding hands in a garden. But then in the Rider-Waite deck, we see like one child on a horse riding out of a garden. But interestingly enough, the Rider-Waite version is actually more similar to the original Bembo version. And in Bembo's version, it's like a child is holding up a human head that's radiating light and he's like flying in the air.
I love that version.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of want to see this. This sounds like amazing. I'm like, okay, you better work, Bembo. So it's kind of interesting. So it kind of like deviated and then it like he tried to bring it back. But then people were like, oh, but you're changing something that's like already working. So I don't know. It's very, pretty interesting. Another kind of cool thing is that Pamela Coleman Smith, the artist, she actually, I believe, was the first to include scenes for the minor arcana like number cards for each suit. Because before it was just like a geometric pattern.
I see.
Like if you had like a 10 of wands, it would just be like maybe 10 wands in a geometric pattern. And like, she actually brought scenes to each of those cards, which I think really helps a lot. And I have a few decks where they just do a geometric pattern for those number cards, and it's so much less, it's a less helpful, and then also it's like doesn't look as nice because it's just like it's like a deck of cards, you know. Like then I'm like, oh, there's nothing to interpret there. So I feel like that did a really big thing for tarot. It made sure that every single card had something to interpret and look at and something to take away from it. It's not quite exactly sure who exactly designed the minor arcana scenes, but so we don't know if it's actually Arthur Waite being like, hey, Pamela, this is exactly what I want, or if she just took the liberty to do it. But we do know that many of the decks, like modern decks, play off of those cards. So whoever, I mean, I kind of like to think that it was Pamela. Like she just kind of went and did it, and then, because apparently, and I haven't even there's a book, a guidebook from Arthur Waite that comes with the deck, which I think I just like threw out or something. But apparently his writings for those minor arcana cards like don't really align with what is shown. So that makes me think that she did it, because I feel like he would be the type of dude who'd be like, this is exactly what I'm saying.
This is what exactly.
So I feel like that's pretty cool. I'm like, you go, Pamela.
They were both members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
What is that?
It is more commonly, the Golden Dawn was a secret society devoted to the study and practice of the occult, metaphysics, and paranormal activities during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, known as a magical order.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. That's like us. Join our coven.
Yeah, many present-day concepts of ritual and magic that are the center of contemporary traditions, such as Wicca, were inspired by the Golden Dawn, which became one of the largest single influences on 20th century Western occultism.
Wow. Wow.
And so
this was like probably just like their hobby. They're like, oh, I'm going to reimagine this.
Yeah. So Waite and Coleman Smith were both members of that society.
That's cool. I didn't know that. My book doesn't go into that. I think it just tries to keep it brief, because there's just so much out there that is of speculation, and then also like so much detail you could go into. I have a few notes here about the use of tarot specifically for divination, or I guess it would be called cartomancy, because we're using cards to divine the future or whatever. There is actually little known historically on the origins of the use of tarot in divination. I feel like everyone kind of agrees that possibly the Romani people, or like traveler nomadic people, aka gypsies, but I know that that's not a great way to call the Romani people, so I'm just call them like Romanis or travelers. Everyone kind of like agrees that possibly they came across the game Tarot or tarot and decided to use those cards for fortune telling, or there are accounts of individuals developing this concept And the earliest written references are like individual people's interpretations that they've written down, but we kind of can't confirm if like there had been a strong oral tradition and then they're the only ones who like wrote it down, you know? But that's definitely the first thing that we know in writing that somebody wrote down. But it could be like that it was widespread and then the Romani people kind of took it and made it something else. It was believed that the Romani brought the cards from Egypt, which is what people thought, I think, when they were obsessed with Egypt. But like, I don't know, the Romani people likely came from India, my book says, and arrived in Spain 100 years after tarot cards were introduced to Italy and France. So it's kind of unlikely that they actually brought it in.
I see.
I feel like it's probably something that, I mean, I don't know, there's kind of a mystery to it. It's like people use this deck of cards to play their little like card games and like gamble with it. But somebody out there decided to, you know, give further meaning and use it as like a fortune telling thing. But I do know that a very popular like view or vision of tarot is with like Romani people like doing fortune telling and stuff like that, which is kind of like is very interesting, and it's not necessarily, you know, from them.
True.
We don't know. I have like a few quotes to wrap this up about tarot and about tarot readings from my Rachel Pollack book that kind of just stuck out with me because I feel like it's a great way to look at things. So she says, if we can use anything for fortune telling, why use the tarot? The answer is that any system will tell us something. The value of that something depends on the inherent wisdom of the system. Because the tarot pictures carry deep significance all by themselves, the patterns they form in readings can teach us a great deal about ourselves and life in general.
Okay.
So like I kind of like that. It's like sure, you can use, it's like we use that Carol Bolt book, the Book of Answers. It's like you can use anything, or you can even just pick a book off the shelves and like point to something.
Yeah.
I literally saw a TikTok that was like it's called like the Cheese of Truth. And some guy has like this holy slice of cheese, you know, slice of cheese with holes in it. And he has like a book and he just slaps it down. He's like, the cheese of truth. And he slaps it down and then it like literally says like a message.
Oh.
So it's like, you know, you can use anything to divine anything.
Yeah, even cheese.
Yeah. But, you know, tarot is kind of special because it allows, it's like so open-ended, but also speaks to a lot of like human truths that we all experience, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, and I think like the inherent history now that we've poured into it now creates something with meaning. You know what I mean? Like we have created the meaning behind the cards.
That's true. I think that's the most interesting part of it. And it wasn't that somebody sat down and was like, you know, in the way that we know it, that somebody's like, this is this is what tarot means, and you're going to learn this by the book or whatever. It just kind of, I feel like it came either like naturally or it's like, you know, this artist Bembo like made these scenes that maybe they didn't have like the meanings that they had today, but it became that through this kind of like collective human consciousness thing, you know. Like that's pretty cool. Another quote I have about tarot is that it is one thing to study the symbolism of a particular card. It is something else to see that card in combination with others. Many times I have seen specific readings open up important meanings that would not have emerged any other way.
Interesting.
So it's all in combination with each other. It's not even just the specific cards having meaning. It's all about
how they play off each other. You know, that's like all about like how
context. Like
which way is the hangman looking? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all like weird coincidences that you need to like pick up on.
Super intricate.
Yeah. And my last quote I have to wrap this up. It says, no card, no approach to life is good or bad, except in the context of the moment.
There you go.
That reminds me of like the thing that Madison's dad said. If you haven't seen, or not seen, but if you haven't listened to Madison Jacobs' episode, it's the one before this one.
Oh, she says it's neither good nor bad.
You don't know what's good or what's bad.
Yeah.
And that's true because it's all about the context. And, you know, this quote is like, the context of the moment shows, you know, what is good or what's bad. Or it's like, you know, a tower card. It's like, that could be, you think that it's, generally we accept it as a bad card, but, you know, like my book had said, it makes room for something new. or like the death card. Everyone's always like afraid of.
Or
But
devil.
It's always about, yeah, it's like always about something new.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's pretty much the history of the tarot. Do you have any other things?
No, that's our quick.
We're keeping it short up in here.
Keeping it short up in this bitch, but just a little quick hit of where tarot comes from and what we are doing, and yeah, hopefully that was insightful for you guys. It was for us.
Yeah, seriously, it's like basically the tea is we kind of don't know. There's a lot of unbased theories.
Yes,
people kind of went a little crazy with it. Thought it came from Egypt. Thought it came from a lot of other things. There's a lot of sus ties to it. You know, there's a lot of conspiracy going on, which I think kind of makes it a little more
gives
special.
it some power. Yeah, it gives it some mystery.
Got a little extra zhuzh.
Yeah, zhuzh.
Yeah, this has been a short but cheeky episode of
Witchy and whining about it.
Yes, on wine and divination. I am Kristi.
I'm Devin.
Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. Helps us a ton. It helps to give us a little more base and lets us know that you're liking what we're putting out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And follow our social media. Instagram is wine.divination. Go to wineanddivination.com for all our other socials. We got Discord. We got freaking Cash App. We got a Twitter. And you can check it all out on our website.
Yep. Wineanddivination.com.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye.